Hi everyone, Dr. Roof again, and bit of an explanation about the self-determination project at the secondary level. So, let's get going. The overarching purpose of this assignment really is to assist one of your students in identifying a goal for him or herself, to clearly and concretely define the goal, and to specify actions necessary to achieve the desired outcome, and if time permits, to evaluate progress and adjust the plan or goal as needed. So, goal setting is a self-determination skill. It's one of many, similar to choice making or self-regulation. Goal setting is also a self-determination skill. So for kids at the secondary level, this may be more appropriate. So in terms of resources for this assignment, you're going to have you and your ability to connect and communicate with students that you now know in the secondary placement. You're going to have your mentor teacher and his or her knowledge of individual kids. You're going to have the AIM scale that you didn't have in terms of the elementary aged kids. In the sort of self-determination project at that level. You're going to have Sjogren Chapter 5, promoting skills leading to enhance self-determination through goal setting. You're going to have PolyLearn resources, informal assessments, student conversation guides. All these are tools that you can use in teasing out from your students what they're interested in, what they may be interested in terms of post-school schooling or training, living and accessing their communities, and so forth. So which of those you choose will be up to you. You'll have to look at them over and see what's appropriate. There's a It's My Life self-directed IEP, short informal conversation guide that you can use with students as well. And ultimately, a resource for this program should be that you're knowing that before long, your student will become 18, the age of majority, will age out of the educational system, and will need some kind of a plan to move forward with. Okay? So let's look at a few of the similarities and differences between the secondary and elementary projects. Well, for most of you, the similarities are going. Let me just start with similarities. So we're talking about teaching self-determination skills in at both levels, where it might be choice making at the elementary level. It may be more appropriate to talk about goal setting especially for high school kids, but possibly also for middle school kids. And in terms of differences, well, the kids are going to be older and closer to actually leaving school. Conversations with them about their future are going to become a higher and higher priority the older they get. You're going to have the AIR scale to help guide you. We will administer that to each other in class, just so you can get a feel for it and how to interpret the results. Your lesson plan and teaching is going to be based on the results of the AIR, probably, unless you have a compelling reason not to do that. There's going to be a personalized checklist, a to-do list. There's an example of that in the Kellum's article, page 67. What needs to be done, who needs to do it, and by what date. And who needs to do it isn't all you, don't think it is. I'm going to have you formulate some transition goals, possible transition goals in various areas that the ITP would require, just so you get the feel for those. The time available may be for many of you less. So, I understand that most of you have your major placements at the elementary level, so you're only going to have a day a week. I understand that, but I want you to do as good a job as you possibly can for this young person, young girl or young boy. And there may be other differences as well. So Let's move on then to the AIR scale itself. So the purpose of the AIR scale is to develop a profile of the student's level of self-determination. Specifically, it IDs areas of strength and areas of needing improvement, and it measures two big areas: capacity and opportunity. So does the student have the capacity to self-determine himself, and do they have the opportunity, both at school and at home, to practice self-determination types of skills? So capacity has to do with both ability and knowledge, and there are items on the student scale and on the educator scale that relate to ability and knowledge. And and also to perception. So on the student scale, the items relating to ability and knowledge, you have the scales out in front of you. It's probably going to help. Sorry, I should have said that at the get-go. Are the items labeled things I do, and for ability and knowledge, the items on the educator scale are labeled knowledge and ability, quite simply. And in terms of perception of ability to be self-determined, the items on the student scale are labeled how I feel, and on the educator scale are labeled perception. And finally, the scale measures the opportunity to be or practice self-determination skills at school and at home. So, in understanding a student's capacity for self-determination and the opportunities she or he has to practice self-determination skills, the process can be further broken down into three components. And each of these components has two steps. The components are thinking, doing, and adjusting. In the Sjogren chapter, they define those steps a little bit differently. They define them as identifying a goal, clearly and concretely defining a goal, specifying the actions necessary to achieve the desired outcomes, doing them, and evaluating the progress. So these are the kinds of things that the AIR scale is going to be pretty specific, and you're going to be able to see where your student is doing well and where he might need to be supported in terms of you developing a lesson or working with him to develop a particular self-determination skill. So if you look at the last pages of the educator and student form files at this point, this is probably going to be easier to understand. So each of the items relates to thinking, doing, and adjusting. Thinking has two steps: identifying and expressing one's own needs, interests, and abilities. You can certainly have conversations with your students in these areas, and setting expectations and goals to meet these needs. So you're going to find out by using the AIR how capable a student is in doing this, these thinking skills. Secondly, the doing skills, making choices and plans to meet goals and expectations, and taking action to complete plans. You're going to find out how able a student is to do. And finally, adjusting has two steps: evaluating the results of actions and altering plans and actions if necessary to meet goals more effectively. Not sure that you're going to have time to get to the adjusting phase. This is going to be a push, but the further you can get in this thinking, doing, adjusting process, finding out where your student has needs and helping him in these areas, the better off he's going to be, or she. So in terms of administering the scale, I'd like you to take it yourself in terms of this particular student. Your teacher can too if she or he wants to. I'd like you to give it to the student and the parent. That's going to be up to you. Again, we don't have a Spanish-speaking version. It might be a good idea to warm the student up and to get specific about a goal or goals she has before beginning this, so she or he can have some point of reference in terms of, well, can I do this, or have I done this or not? Okay? And once you get the results and plot them using that bar graph, I will give you something in class that has suggestions to increase students' capacity for self-determination, to increase students' ability to perform self-determination behaviors, and to increase students' perception of their own knowledge and ability to perform self-determination behaviors. These examples will, I think, make this clear to you what specifically you might be able to do with your students. But let me just read you one example from each category right now. Increase students' capacity for self-determination. To increase students' knowledge of their own interests, needs, abilities, and limitations. So how could you do that? Well, you know, again, using one of these interest inventories, for example, you could give them the interest inventory and thereby help them see and talk about what their interests are. To increase a student's ability to perform self-determination behaviors. Okay, here it might be, an example might be to increase a student's ability to express his or her own interests, their needs, abilities, and limitations without undue influence from others. Or to increase a student's ability to make choices, decisions, and plans to meet his or her own goals and expectations without undue influence from others. Or to increase the student's ability to take actions and complete plans effectively. And finally, the next to last bullet there, increase students' perception of their own knowledge and ability to perform self-determination behaviors. An example might be to increase students' confidence and sense of freedom in expressing their own interests, needs, abilities, and limitations. To increase students' confidence and sense of freedom in making choices, decisions, and plans to meet their own goals and expectations. So you have choice at the elementary, you have choice at the secondary, but my suggestion would be, if it's possible, that if we're going to be working on choice, that the choices for the secondary student might have something to do with career planning versus a particular academic subject area. So again, you know, aside from the air, you're going to have an opportunity to talk with your students. And giving them in your ear and prompting them to talk about their future will be extremely important for them. And if you need, you know, prompts, again, go to PolyLearn, go to the second segment on PolyLearn where the assignments are all described in folders, and you'll see that I've also included informal assessment folders for independent living and community participation, for employment and career planning, for post-secondary education and training. And in each one of those folders, there are a number of surveys you can give your students to get them thinking about their futures. And lastly, deliverables. We'll see the assignment for the complete list, but we're going to begin with a description of your young person. We're going to go on and you're going to turn in the profile form, how they did on the air, your interpretation of that form. And again, I'll hand you a sheet tomorrow or in class that helps you work with that. This is not rocket science. It's just looking at the bar graphs and identifying areas of strength and need. Setting self-determination goals, two of these. Writing objectives for those goals. coming up with a lesson plan. This is where you're involved, actively involved in helping them with one type of goal or another. Documenting progress made. And even if this is only attending, progress made in terms of attending and engaging them in this conversation would be good. We're in week 3 now, and so we'll just have to see. You just have to give me some sort of a statement here if you were able to do this or not. I'm also going to have you do a transition to-do list. You may be the last person that this student is able to talk to for a while about transition, and so this is just going to be something that they'll be able to keep of what needs to be done. Do they need to get a driver's license? Who's going to help with that? When is that going to be done by? Or whatever else. Do they need to go to the Department of Rehab? Who's going to help them with that? When is that going to happen by? And then possible transition goals. As you read Wayman and complete the IRIS module, you will see that transition goals need to be written in particular areas. And so, these are theoretical goals, especially if the youth is in middle school, and they may or may not be shared with the student, but it would be your best guess as to what good transitional goals for your particular student might be. And finally, in this assignment, you're going to include an appendix. So that is an overview of this. There seems like there's a lot more to this assignment than to the one at the elementary school, and in a way there is. That is complicated in the fact that most of you, again, are going to have less time to do it. But, what do we have in common here? We have the future of the kids that we're teaching. And so to the extent that you can, with the support of your teacher, make progress on this assignment, I will just monitor you individually as the quarter unfolds. First, if you want to make appointments with me to talk about the results of the AIR and what you might do, I'm open and willing to talk with you about it. So I'm going to be quiet for right now and let you digest this, and we can answer questions in class or individually. Okay, I'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.